Okay, well, this is the chapter 16 test, and I'm just going to walk you through it really quickly. Number one, 5 times you're using this as a factor. So remember that when it's a fraction, you do need to put it in parentheses before you put the exponent out there. For number two, likewise, this has to be a -2, so make sure you're using the parentheses and the exponent goes outside of the parentheses. Here, no parentheses needed. It's just 6y's here. And then over here, you're going to have 4 to some power right next to c to some power. You don't need a multiplication symbol in between them. They're right next to each other. Here you have to evaluate it. Remember, this is not 2 times 4, but it is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I'm sure you'll get it right. Here, this is -3 times -3 times -3. So there will be an odd number of negatives. So make sure your answer here, your product, will be negative. Over here, remember that you're going to do a subtraction here, okay? And then you'll be left with some on the bottom, okay? Over here, you're going to add, because it's a multiplication, you add the exponents, and then make sure you tell us what that's worth. Remember, anything to the 0 power is 1. Here, same base, you're multiplying, so you're just going to keep the base, add the exponents, and then it says write your answer as a power. So don't solve. You're going to write it as a power. Leave an exponent on there. Same here, a power to a power. Remember, you multiply those. Over here, remember this 3 applies to each thing in between. The number part should be solved. So do not leave this 4 to the 3rd power. You have to tell me what 4 to the 3rd power is. 4 times 4 times 4. Over here, this is -3/8 times -3/8 times, oh no, just squared, so just twice. So it'll be a negative times a negative, so your answer will not be negative, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay, yes I am, it's positive. And then t squared. So for the t, you've got an exponent, a power raised to a power, so you multiply these two. But the -3/8 it has a power of 1, or it's not seen, so you don't, so the 2 just goes there, but here it's going to be to the 4th power. Okay, over here, you subtract, okay, write your answer as a power, so don't solve it, but do simplify it. Same thing here. Remember, I would multiply these first by adding the exponents, then divide by subtracting the exponents. Over here, same thing. I would multiply these two first by adding the exponents, and then I would divide and subtract the exponents. Here, they want you to subtract the exponents, then multiply across the top and bottom. And here, you have to write these using only positive exponents. All right? So the 4, that's a positive exponent, so that'll be on top of the fraction bar. This c to the -5th, once you put it under the fraction bar, will be c to the 5th. This c squared, or c to the 2nd power, stays on top of the fraction bar. And then you do have 2 c's on top, 5 c's on the bottom, so you can simplify that. The 4 stays on top all by itself, and you'll have c to some power down on the bottom there. And then here, you can simplify the 3 and the 9, okay? And then you can simplify the x's. So at the end, you're only going to have a 1 in the numerator. The denominator will have a number part and a variable to an exponent. For number 19, tell whether it is written correctly in scientific notation. If it is not, write it correctly in scientific notation. Spoiler alert, neither of those are written in scientific notation. I couldn't help myself. I had to tell you. Okay. Write the number in standard form. So here, you're going to move the decimal 2 places to make that number part smaller. Here, you're going to move the decimal part 6 places to make the number bigger. Write these in scientific notation. So you're going to have something, point something, times 10 to the, and then it'll be negative however many places you had to move that decimal. Here, you're going to have something, point something, something, times 10 to the, and here you have to, a positive, some exponent for the 10. Down here, you're going to put these in order from least to greatest. Well, for this first one, all of them are times 10 to the 7th. So you can ignore that part for the time being. It doesn't help you make your decision. Really, you're just looking at 3.9, 3.08, and 3.88. putting those in order from least to greatest. And then when you do, make sure you put the times 10 to the 7th on the end of each of them. Over here, you don't even have to look at the factor part out front because their powers of 10 are all different. In fact, you can make your decision just based on their powers of 10. Remember, it's least to greatest, and that -5 is going to make that least, okay, because it's in the -5. Okay, down here for 27, you do have to either make this so it's to 10 to the power of 2, or you can change this one to 10 to the power of 3. Then you add the factor part out front, and then you make sure it's in scientific notation when it's done. Here, same thing, you're going to have to change either this to 10 to the -4 or change this to 10 to the -3rd. Then you can subtract them and make sure your answer is in scientific notation. Down here, you don't need to make sure the powers are the same because you're multiplying. So you're going to multiply the number part out front. You're going to multiply the powers of 10 by adding the exponents, remember? And then make sure your answer is in scientific notation. Same thing here. You're going to divide. And remember, it's the first one divided by the second one. The first one in the box, the second one out of the box. Then you do that division. Now this, you don't see a power of 10, so it's just times 10 to the 0 power. So really, you just keep this power of 10. And remember, then you will have to make sure your answer is in scientific notation. All right, well, I hope that walkthrough did help, and you can take your quiz as you walk through this. Excellent.